Hey, Nerd Herd, Dynasty Nerds here back again, and we have so much to talk about, whether it be injuries or strategy. We've got a jam-packed episode with a lot of good information here.
Absolutely, and we get to talk about my boy Cole KMET, rocking that Bears shirt for KMET. 5 touchdowns, 5 tutties, 3 weeks. Let's get it.
Ready, set, hut, hut. Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson, here, my fellow nerd, Garret Price.
How's it going?
It's going good. No more Matt O'Hara again this week. He's still out ill. He'll be okay, of course. We've talked to him. He'll be back next week on Tuesday. Just audio, no video, with Garrett and Matt. And I will be in New York making a whole bunch of prize picks all week long, celebrating. I'm going to go to the Bills game on Sunday. And then I'm going to stay in New York the whole week and celebrate Thanksgiving there with family. So I'm pretty pumped.
Nice. Did Jared tell you that him and I are going to the Browns-Bucks game?
He did not tell me that. We should meet up for sure.
We should meet up beforehand. Look at that. Making plans on the air. You're welcome.
There we go. Plans are made. Excited. So before we get into this week's show, we got a lot to talk about this week. Some big injuries, some big news to go over here. I got to tell you, as always, about our friends at Prize Picks. And, you know, Prize Picks is such a fun way. I just mentioned I'm going to be in New York playing around there on my Prize Picks app. I love every time I get a chance to get out to New York. I have a place out there because it gets me a chance to get on the Prize Picks app and make some props, right? You know, and I got a couple of props I love this week. But, you know, what Prize Picks is, it's an app. It's a site that lets you pick 2 to 5 players, and all you got to do is pick their over-under projections. They're going to give you some projections. You pick the over, you pick the under. If you're right, you win up to 10 times your entry. It's just you versus those numbers. That's all it is. And it's multi-sports. With any league you want to play, whether it be basketball, hockey, football, baseball, you can combine all those sports together to find a perfect amount of props that you like to come out ahead with some major cash. Like this week, Garrett, I was taking a look at them. 3 of my favorite props. I like Daniel Jones to go over 185.5 receiving yards. I like that this week. I like Jonathan Taylor to go over 80.5 rushing yards. And I like DJ Moore to go over 55.5 receiving yards. So those are my 3 props that I like this week. You know, all I got to do is just put those in there. I'm going to put those in there on Friday morning. And if I hit, I'm going to win 10 times my entry. Can't wait. I'm going to be just going to that Buffalo Bills game, just buying beers left and right for all my friends. All my friends, dude. It's going to be great.
It's on me, boys. It's on me.
So get out. Check them out. You can download their app right now. Check out Prize Picks. Make sure you use the promo code NERDS. So they'll give you double your entry up to $100. Use that promo code NERDS, and they're going to double up your picks. Prize Picks. Check them out. Can't wait. Like I said, I'll be in there. I've already been invited by the Bills Mafia to cut multiple tailgates. I'll be over there with some friends.
You're going to break a
table,
table, right? You're going to break a table.
I honestly, if you're going to be table breaking, because I heard it's few far between, please hit me up in my DMs. I would love to stop by for that. My kids would probably absolutely love it. I would love to throw my kids off of something onto a table and let Mother Nature take its course, you know, survival of the fittest. So, and if my wife doesn't like her, I'll throw her on a table too. You know, where's the stop?
Right.
It'll be WrestleMania in the Dotson house. I'm not scared. So,
breaking tables, baby.
We had some injuries this week, Garrett. We had some good injuries, not from people falling on tables, but from players getting hit. So let's dive into some of these. Obviously,
real quick.
Whoa,
Hold on.
Yes. Okay.
Real quick. I have to make this announcement because Jared's like, Garrett, make sure no matter what that this gets announced tomorrow night. And if you're listening on Wednesday when this normally comes out, that will be tonight for you. We are doing a trade extravaganza, a bonanza. Whatever aganza it is. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be on our Discord. So if you are not part of the Nerd Herd, you're not on Discord with us. So you got to be part of the Nerd Herd, but we're going to go on there. We're going to be on there for a good, probably 30 minutes, maybe even an hour or so.
It'll be an hour.
It'll probably be like 7 hours with all the trade questions, but whatever it is, we'll be on there. We're going to be answering tons and tons of trade questions because we are in the thick of it right now. Trade season, lots of moves being made. I've made 3 moves, I think, like in the past 2 days. So
I've made
it's
so
that
many
time of
trades.
year.
I literally made a trade 3 minutes ago before I jumped on the air. I traded what's probably what's going to end up being 3-1 Superflex
Okay.
and premium next year, and I got Curtis Samuel. I need another receiver, like a fourth receiver. I needed one, so I gave it 3-1. It was proposed to me. But you're right, Garrett. This is like the heat. This is the thick of it. We talked about last show. Like this week, the next couple of weeks, it's dynasty trade extravaganza, right? Like this is where you're going to see tons of trades, draft picks going out the door, people going for those ships. I mean, if you had Cooper Kupp, more likely than not, you're a contender, right? And now the Moscow Mule is put back on the shelf. He's not coming back, folks. Like he's out. Like probably 6 weeks, most likely the year, because the Rams will probably be out of it at that point. They lost 2 more offensive linemen. That offensive line is in shambles. They have no running game whatsoever. Even though they got Kyron Williams back, it won't be a fair look at him. Even though it'd probably be safer to dump it off in the passing game. Obviously it's a boost for Ben Skowronek. Obviously it's a boost for Van Jefferson. Allen Robinson could probably be the number 1, but the offensive line is so bad. The Rams are probably the Rams are probably going to have a top 12 pick, which isn't even their pick, but that's what it's probably going to be. So the odds of Cooper Kupp even coming back to help you are slim to none. And when he did come back, it'd be on like a light workload. So Cooper Kupp is done. So if you have Cooper Kupp and you're in the thick of it, guess what you're going to do? You thought you were good, but now your team's a contender. You got to go out and give up your 23 first for a player. You got to give up assets that you normally wouldn't want to give up to be a contender, because that's what you should do as a contender, right? Just because you lose a player doesn't mean you're like, this is it. I guess I'm not going to go win a championship. Hell no. Double down. Go get that ship. Listen, I'm only saying this because I've been saying it for 9 years, and I haven't said it lately, I don't think, Garrett, is we play this game for one reason and one reason only. It's not to have the best looking team on paper. It's not to have all these draft picks. Yes, if you're in rebuild, that's exactly what you want to do. You want to be reloading with those draft picks. But if you're any time in a window, if you have any time opportunity at all to win a championship, you seize that moment and you go get that championship. It doesn't matter how strong your team looks on paper down the road. It doesn't matter how many draft picks you have, or you can't give up your late 23 first or your late 23 first, second, and 24 second. Yes, you can. Those are just imaginary assets that do not exist yet on your roster. If you have a championship in front of you, you go and get it. It will always be the utmost important thing that you do for your team, and that's to put in the best position to win a Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship, because those windows are small and they're hard to come by, and you have no idea what your team's going to look like next year. You have no idea what those players are going to do performance-wise, and you have no idea if they're going to be healthy then as well. You have to go get those chips. It's literally all that matters. People will be talking about trading this. Youth is this. You can't give up this. And I'm not saying go out there and just overpay crazy and get taken advantage of.
Right.
I'm not saying that. But you can find amongst your league mates, amongst 11 other players, 9 other players, 13 other players, a fair trade that might be a slightly overpay. And sometimes what seems like an overpay today is an underpay tomorrow. And again, if you end up with that championship, it does not matter. We play to win the game. That's what's most important. Nobody cares about second place. Nobody cares about how many draft picks you have. Nobody cares that your team went 12-0 or 15-0 in the regular season, and you lost in the championship game because your 2 running backs were hurt, and you didn't give up a first-round pick, a second-round pick and a third-round pick for David Montgomery, who's now the clear bona fide starter and get all the snaps in Chicago. Or he's just a one-year guy, or he's 32 years old. It does not matter. Go get that championship. And unfortunately, if you are a contender and you just lost Cooper Kupp, that's probably the position you're in, right? Your whole situation has now changed because you lost a guy who was averaging about 22 points per game. That was one of the best fantasy receivers in the game as it is right now. And that's going to be really hard to replace, right? But you got to find some way to include those points from another area. It's probably going to be from a team that's not ready to compete.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So we're going to do all that and more 10 o'clock tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Eastern time on Discord. We're going to help you guys win ships. It's going to be awesome. I'll be there. Rich will be there. Jared will be there. It'll be fantastic. And we've already kind of segued sort of into the injuries, but let's officially get to it. Cooper Kupp headed to the IR, looking like he's going to miss probably around 6 weeks, which is basically the rest of your fantasy season.
Yeah, if not more. I mean, like I said, they're probably not. I mean, do you expect them to bring Cooper Kupp back at the end of the year? No.
Why would they?
I mean, you're talking about like week 15. Why would they even bring him back and like try to aggravate? And that's like, I mean, he got the tightrope surgery. He's getting surgery tomorrow. So they're saying probably 6 up to 8 weeks. He's done. Like, he's not coming back. Like, this is one of the situations that they're going to make the playoffs. He'd probably come back and be ready for the playoffs. Maybe they give him a little action in week like 18. But for this team in the state it is now with their Super Bowl hangover, we will not see Cooper Kupp again. Obviously, like I said earlier, Ben Skowronek, he's going to play in the slot. He'll get a little bit more targets. Van Jefferson came back this week. He should be included a little bit more. Maybe they're not. No Odell Beckham's coming to save him this year because they're not contenders. So Odell Beckham's not going to sign with them this year for sure because they're out of it. Odell Beckham's probably going to go to the Bills. He's probably going to go to the Chiefs. Somebody that's actually ready to compete. Maybe somewhere in the NFC could take a step up where Dallas has heavily recruited him. But for a Cooper Kupp, as a Dynasty owner, you're screwed.
You're screwed. Yep. There's no, because you're not getting Justin Jefferson right now. You're not getting any of those guys. So like your best case scenario is you can get like a mid wide receiver one, and whoever it is not going to give you the same consistent production that you got out of Cooper Kupp. You can hope to get 80 to 85% of it, but that's probably the best you're going to get.
I think your best bet, Garrett, is just to find that older receiver that you can go out and possibly add to your roster. I mean, I think it's hard when you talk Dynasty and you do these podcasts and, when you talk trades and what you give up. And there's a reason we always use draft picks as kind of like a baseline because in a vacuum, it's so hard to say, go trade for player A or go trade for player B because you don't know what that player is on another Dynasty team, whether he's a contender or somebody reloading. It's so hard to say that. Like, it's so easy. Well, you guys should go trade for this player. Well, that team's not trading that player, or they're asking for too much. But, I mean, outside of a vacuum, I think a really good candidate here when we're mentioning draft picks, like, I think you'd probably get DeAndre Hopkins for a 23 first or a 23 first and second. Like, he's a perfect kind of player to go out he's over the 30-year-old mark that's still going to produce at a high level that you could trade that first and you can still get another couple of years out of him. So it's not like you're just wasting that first. But he's like he's the first guy that pops in my head. If there's any middle-in team or any team that's not a true contender that has D-Hop on their roster because they haven't got the right offer where somebody's not willing to give up that 23 first and second. I mean, hell, 23 first, second, and third. That's what it took. I think he's the perfect candidate to go out and acquire for your Dynasty team at that position.
Yeah, absolutely. Another name that comes to mind, Mike Evans in the Tampa Bay offense. That offense looks like it's slowly starting to get itself together. Ryan Jensen, their really good offensive lineman, is going to be back, and that's been part of the issue. Tom Brady hasn't had as much time as he's had in past years. Getting Jensen will be helpful. But Mike Evans is really consistent out there. You're going to get double-digit points week in, week out. Not quite Cooper Kupp level, sure, but you're going to get good production out of somebody like Mike Evans. So he's another one that comes to mind as well for me.
Yeah, anybody that's getting a little older has seen like depressed value, like Amari Cooper, Mike Evans, maybe Devontae Adams. I know he hasn't seen too much, but again, you're talking about guys. It all depends on your team and where the other team is. So, right, like you're basically just now going to go look at all the rosters that are, from the 6th seed down, right? They're slowly on the borderline, possibly trying to get out, and then go try and acquire the players, like any kind of player you can get that's going to produce. And then the opposite might be the opposite way to look at it too, Garrett, is like you might look to say somebody had a Cooper Kupp and say they were like in the 6th, 5th spot in the playoffs. And they're like, dude, that's it. My season's over. And they don't want to go out and go make moves. And they don't have 23 first to give up. They were kind of all in. Now's the time to go start vulturing their roster too. Like it could be the complete opposite where you're like, hey, this guy was a number 1 seed and he's got Cooper Kupp and his number 2 receiver was DeAndre Hopkins, right? Because now you might get DeAndre Hopkins for, we're saying, hey, I hit to give him a first and second. You might just get DeAndre Hopkins for just a first because he's like, man, with no Cooper Kupp, I have no chance. This was like my last shot. Cooper Kupp's 30, DeAndre Hopkins 30. everybody's for sale, and now you're actually getting value off of that team way. So it actually worked both ways here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a devastating injury, but anytime that these types of things happen, it opens up extra windows for trading, moving players that otherwise there would have been no reason to see Cooper Kupp on the move otherwise, or some of these other players. But these open up windows for teams that are now interested in acquiring players that they wouldn't have been interested in before.
Yeah, listen, I mean, Winston Churchill said this quote. He said, with every great tragedy comes great opportunity. And in Dynasty Fantasy Football, that great tragedy is when somebody gets hurt, whether it be long-term or short-term. And what that does is present an opportunity for you to go out there and to find value, right? To go out there and either acquire that player for cheaper than he was yesterday, or to grab other assets off of that Dynasty roster. And it's a constant moving and shaking business, Dynasty. And definitely this time of year, because every move, every bye week, every loss, every win, every injury changes the whole dynamic outlook of somebody's perspective on their season. So you gotta be the first to act, because if you're not, somebody else is going to do it, and then they're going to make a trade with that team. And, we've said this on the show 100 times, where how many times have you seen a trade go through in your Dynasty? Like, oh my goodness, that's all you gave up for that player? Yeah. I would have gave you more. Well, then you should have made the offer, right? Like, people aren't just waiting around. I had a league mate today. He was laughing at me saying, oh, I can't believe you said it's a Josh Allen trade that you're a contender in this league. I wrote back, I'm 100% a contender. And he's like, come get Tyreek Hill. I'm like, send me an offer. He's like, no, you send me an offer. And I'm like, okay, I guess that's where we're at here. I don't really know where to go from here because I don't know what to offer. But the point is, like, you can't wait around for other people to make the offers, right? Like, you need to go out there. You got to make the offers and pitch. It's a reason why, Garrett, like, I don't know how you do it, but, like, I'm constantly sending trades out of my leagues all the time. Like, every single day, knowing that 95% of these trades are just going to be flat denied, saying, nope, you're nowhere close. I don't know where this came from. It's because a lot of times I'm just testing the waters, right? Like, hey, has this depreciated in your eyes at all? If I get a strong nope, it has not. If it, maybe I'll get a counter offer. And then once I get a counter offer, I know there's a window there to negotiate. And then sometimes at 0.5%, 0.1%, they actually just hit yes. And you're like, oh my God, I made this amazing trade.
Such a good deal.
So it's like, and you got to be doing, you got to constantly be throwing those trades out there nonstop. And that's fine if you become the guy that goes, oh man, another trade offer from Rich. Yeah, man, I'm constantly trying to improve my Dynasty team. And I'm always testing the waters to see how you feel about this player or if there's a door open for a trade. And there's a team, like in my original league, that's 18 years old. There's a team in my eyes, I feel like it's been out of it for the last 5 weeks. And I've sent them a trade every other week for these players, like group trades too. Like, give me Mike Evans. I want Mike Evans. I want Travis Kelce. And I want somebody else too, like older assets, right? Like, and I'm offering like 2 firsts and a second. And he's like, no, I'm not ready to give up yet. But like, I'm going to keep sending them just in case that one day he's like, you know what? I am ready to give up. And that seems like a good enough offer for me. So you got to send those trades, man. Got to send them.
Absolutely. Well, you might have to send out some more trades at the tight end position because we lost 2 very important pieces this week. Zach Ertz, knee injury, done for the year. Dallas Goedert, shoulder injury. His is a little bit more short-term, looking at 2 to 3 weeks there. It's already been tough at the tight end position. Now, fortunately, we have had a couple step up. We will talk about that player in a moment. But not that I'm excited and wearing a Bears shirt for no reason, whatever. But it's been really difficult at the tight end position. Goddard, Ertz, what are you doing there, Rich?
Well, obviously with Ertz, you're not doing anything because he's out for the year. Goddard's out 2 to 3 weeks. You're a hold there. If he's your number 1 tight end, then that kind of hurts. If Zach Ertz is your number 1 tight end, that hurts because you're talking about 2 guys at the top of the position. You're literally talking about the number 3 and number 4 overall tight ends in PPR leagues. So you lost 2 high-end assets here. So, like, who do you go out and get, right? Like, who are the guys you go out and trade for? Maybe it's Tyler. I mean, I think what's close here, Garrett, is you had Zach Ertz averaging 11.6 points per game. Dallas Goedert averaging 12.6 points per game. Now, when it comes to other tight end positions, or if you want to be closer, guys that are out there like Tyler Conklin, right? Tight end number 7 overall, somebody we talked about in the preseason. He's averaging 9.2 points per game. You get him for almost nothing. Hayden Hurst averaging almost 9 points per game. He can go out there and be got. You can't get Pat Freiermuth, who's averaging 10. David Njoku maybe off a reloading team. I highly doubt that. But, I mean, I think the good thing here, Garrett, is even though you lost those two high, the number 3 and 4 guys, outside of those guys, everybody else is pretty much in the same realm of tight end, like where they're scoring on a points per game basis. So even though you're not going to get the same production back, you're going to be on an equal playing field for everybody that doesn't have Mark Andrews, who doesn't have Travis Kelce, TJ Hawkinson, Pat Freiermuth, Cole Kmet, and David Njoku, essentially.
Yeah. And even, I mean, and even outside of, honestly, Andrews and Kelce, it's really not even that big of a step up or step down from that tier that you just talked about of Njoku and Kittle and all those guys. Like, those guys are averaging a few more points a game, but most of them aren't super consistent. You know, it's 18-point game there, but then a 7-point game there. And, you know, like, just the position in and of itself is absolutely brutal. It does open up an interesting window here, though, for Trey McBride. Trey McBride, the first tight end off the board, Mackey Award winner. Are you wanting to try? Like, obviously now is probably a tough time to acquire him because whoever had him is excited and he's going to be playing and whatnot. But do you expect good things for him, or do you think it's just going to be he'll be out there running around, but most of those targets are still going to go to Nuke and Rondell Moore?
Yeah, I mean, I think, okay, here's the encouraging thing. One, he's a rookie tight end, so it's kind of really hard to produce when you're a rookie tight end altogether for all the information you have to intake. But the encouraging sign was when he went out, he played like 99% of the snaps, whatever. It was like 54 out of 55 snaps. Trey McBride came in and played. So that's a positive. But the negative is he's a rookie. He's going to be much harder to acquire now. And I don't think I'd want to pay that price tag when I can literally go out and get Tyler Conklin or Hayden Hurst for like pennies on a dollar, or maybe a Jawan Johnson, for pennies on a dollar. As a Trey McBride owner, you're really excited because now he has an opportunity. Maybe see what he's going to be used here. But Marquise Brown's going to be back soon too, so that's going to kind of push him aside. And there's a 3-headed monster at receiver, which is going to be Rondale Moore, DeAndre Hopkins, and Marquise Brown. So I mean, I don't think that's the avenue I'm going, Garrett. Like, I'm just gonna go find, again, all the guys I kind of named, right? Like maybe a Gerald Everett, but guys are gonna be in a better position to just give me those. I think Jawan Johnson's a really good guy to go out and get for pennies on a dollar. I think Hayden Hurst with Jamar Chase being out. I mean, Jamar Chase is still on crutches, so I think Hayden Hurst is like a really good guy to go get as they start to compete for the AFC North as well. Though that's the avenue I'm going. As a Trey McBride owner, I'm just happy now Ertz is gone to see how he can kind of translate here in the second half of the season.
Would you, if you are a contender, and this seems a little bit counterintuitive, but I was thinking about this earlier today. Obviously, Zach Ertz seems to have basically no value now. Like, this crushed his value. He's an older player, end of his career. If you're a contender, though, would you throw out your like 3rd round pick to whatever team had him to bring him on your roster for next season? Or is that thinking, is that a little too much galaxy brain, thinking too far ahead?
No, if I'm a tight end premium league, I'd throw my late 3rd out there to get again. I mean, he was at the end of last year with the Cardinals, he was a top 3 tight end. This year, he's a top 3 fantasy tight end as well. So yeah, why not? I mean, that's worth a gamble, a late 3rd. Anything that I love giving up late 3rds for anybody that's in position to dominate the following year. So, yeah, I would do that. I think, I'll give up a late 3rd for next year. I target some of those middle of the guys. I think one player, Garrett, that I would kind of like maybe slightly, I don't even think it's an overpay. Here, let me ask you this. Tight end premium, you're somewhere in the middle, or you have a middle and second. Would you easily give up that? How much would you give up for Greg Dulcich in Denver?
Oof. I like Greg Dulcich quite a bit.
Yeah, me too.
It's funny that you mentioned him because in the Nerd Herd episode, we have a pick'em challenge, and I'm curious to see where you're gonna go on him. So let's save it. Let's save it for the Nerd Herd episode, because
all right, because I got a couple thoughts on him. Why, I think he's the one to trade for too. I'd overpay. So turn to the Nerd Herd episode. Why I think it's an overpay. I would overpay for Greg Dulcich today, and I'll talk about it why on the Nerd Herd episode. Okay.
Perfect. Absolutely.
And one of
last
has to
couple
do
injuries.
With the next injury. The next injury.
Yeah, exactly. Jerry Jeudy ankle. It looked really bad at first. I mean, he just fell down. And you're like, oh no, this is Achilles. This is an ACL. This is, and it's just a ankle week to week. I guess it's not a big deal like I thought it was.
Dude, I thought I got clipped by, somewhere from Greek mythology. It was like Achilles coming out there with the arrow, bloop, there it is. Brad Pitt laying on the ground, Achilles. But yeah, it turns out it's it wasn't that bad. He's just day to day, week to week, not day to day, but week to week. So, I mean, it's good news for Jeudy owners, I guess, but he's out.
Yeah.
I don't think a contender is crying because I don't really think he was helping you that much.
No, there weren't many pieces in Denver helping you this year, unfortunately. Isn't it crazy how much that shifted? Coming into the year, we're the AFC West is going to be ridiculous. Now the Raiders are one of the worst teams in football. The Broncos have been miserable. The Chargers have just been fine. And then the Chiefs are the Chiefs. But it went from looking like this epic, unreal division to being such a disappointment.
Such a massive disappointment. But hey, that's what I'm telling you. That's why I said it early in the year. You have to go for the title when you can, because you never know what it's going to look like. I mean, Garrett, we're in mid-November, and football started in early September, and how different everything looks in just 2 months, let alone 365 days from now. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's insane. And, you lose Jerry Jeudy, but Jerry Jeudy, I mean, he's wide receiver 41 on the year. What are you losing?
Not
wide
much.
receiver 4. Yeah. Good luck with that, championship hunter.
Yeah.
Who else is there?
This one hurts a little bit. Khalil Herbert, who was having a really nice year, looking like he was kind of starting to not take over the job, but he was really cutting into Montgomery's work quite a bit. He's headed to the IR. He's going to miss some time with a hip injury. You mentioned David Montgomery earlier when we were in the open. We saw this kind of happen with David Montgomery a couple years ago, where Tariq Cohen got hurt, and it was a softer, and I'll double check it, but I believe he has a softer playoff schedule and end of the year schedule compared to some other teams. And he ended up finishing the year as running back 4, out of nowhere. He's never done anything close to that since. Could he be the ultimate buy right now?
Listen, I have a league that somebody's he keeps putting out there, it's a second and third I will auto accept for David Montgomery right now. And I looked, I don't have a second and third, and I don't need a running back. But I'm I wish I could get David Montgomery for a second and third, because, yeah, man, when he went down, David Montgomery got all the snaps again. Get all the snaps, kind of going back to anything. It's a situation where you have a running back going into the second half of this fantasy football season, this dynasty fantasy football season. You can say, if you count it all the way to the ship, we're in the second half, right? This is almost pretty much right around the halfway, slightly over the halfway mark. You have a running back that's in position to get all the carries on a rising team, right? Where things are drastically starting to change and kind of open up because of the quarterback's development. Anytime you can get a running back that's going to get all the passing down work, get all the carries, that's a championship caliber running back. And we have 2 of them right now that just emerged between our eyes. And it's James Conner and it's David Montgomery. So, yeah. I mean, if we're talking about my sleeper buy of the week, right? If we're going to say, hey, let's talk about our sleeper buy of the week. Sleeper, the number 1 platform out there for fantasy football. Get out there, check it out, download it. But you're talking about I have 2 buys of the week, essentially. And these are just mid-season championship caliber buys. And I'm paying the cost. It's David Montgomery, which right now in the league, I'm getting for a second and third. And I can't imagine that James Conner's price tag is that much different as well. And we're talking about 2 guys that are now in position to get all their carries. With Khalil Herbert going to IR, Eno Benjamin being cut, off of the Arizona Cardinals, putting Keatontae Ingram as a number 2 running back. You're talking about two players that get a lot. Keatontae Ingram. Yeah, sorry. I could not remember how to pronounce his first name. They're going to get a ton of the carries. Khalil Herbert goes down. David Montgomery gets all the carries. James Conner last week played over 95% of the snaps for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, just dominated the workload. And those guys that get the workload, we see it year in and year out. That's all it takes. You don't have to be a special talent. You can just be a jag. That's all you have to be. But if you get all the workload, you are going to be a running back 1 when it's all said and done on average per game basis. So I'm buying both those guys. They're both my sleeper buy of the week. Like, who does not need running back help? Who does not need a guy to set themselves up for the second half push? And these are guys, like, even if I have 2 running backs, but it's all I have, and say my third running back is, I'm in a league. I have Saquon Barkley and I have Joe Mixon. But that's it. Like, my other backup running backs are Melvin Gordon and Michael Carter. So, yeah, exactly. So, like, in that league, if I had a position to get James Conner, if I have a position to get David Montgomery, I'm going out to get those guys immediately. And maybe I won't need to play them. And I hope that I don't need to play them. But 2 things here. 1, I might need to play him. Or 2, maybe by the time the playoffs are coming, they're averaging better games, points per game basis than Joe Mixon. Probably not Saquon, but maybe Joe Mixon. But the main point is, like, kind of I talked about earlier in the ship, is like, as you make this push, like, you're not just looking at your roster, how it is as a starting roster. Like, where are your potential weaknesses if somebody goes down? You want to start inquiring depth here. So, like, when we give you our sleeper buy of the week, it's like, oh, I'm good at running back, or I'm good at receiver. Yeah, you are today, but what about week 15, 16, 17, where it really, really matters? Right. These are 2 guys that can help you now immediately or help you down the road. So I like both David Montgomery and James Conner, Garrett, as my buy of the week for sleeper.
Nope, great buys. I'm 100% with you. I actually was fortunate enough to buy David Montgomery 2 weeks ago before we knew this was going to happen. So the price tag was very inexpensive. So I am thrilled with that now. Last 2 injuries real quick. What's that?
What'd you pay for Montgomery?
It was just a late second. That was it.
Okay. The price tag today in my league is a Superflex starting premium. It's just a second and a third. So, like, we didn't see that much of a price increase with the Khalil Herbert news.
Right. Last 2 injuries real quick. This one doesn't look like it's too bad, but Leonard Fournette, hip injury. They have a bye week this week, but it was already stated that he's likely to be back for their next game, which will be against the Cleveland Football Browns. So he'll probably have a million yards. But we'll talk about him and Rashad White here in a little bit in the Nerd Herd episode. And then last one, Juju Smith-Schuster got that real nasty looking concussion. Hopefully he's going to be better soon.
Better for what?
He was actually performing very well.
Oh, get out
Tons
of here.
Of targets.
Very well.
Did you see his last game before the concussion?
Go do a TikTok dance on your ass on the bench. You suck.
Oh, my.
It's the meanest thing I think I've ever said about someone in the podcast. I've been talking so much smack about Juju for a while now. It's been well-deserved. He hasn't proved me wrong yet, so I won't shut up until he starts producing. I ever thought he was going to go to the Chiefs and be some stud. I was like, get out of here. This guy's no good.
Well,
it's garbage.
I mean, we are talking about a very scary concussion he had this week, so just saying.
Well, Halloween's over, Garrett, so I'm not. Let's call you Gary. Listen here, Gary. Halloween's over. I'm no longer here for scary stuff.
All right, Rashard.
Turkey and stuffing. Yeah, thank you so much for calling me by my proper name. It's my English name. Captain Rashard.
Rashard. All right, let's move on.
Do your read, and then we'll get into your guy.
All right, because, yeah, I need to gloat here. All right, Prediction Strike. That's right, Prediction Strike. We talk about him every week. I talk about him specifically every week. I personally use this platform. I'm on there. I have guys that I'm buying, that I'm selling, just like I would the stock market. And we're talking all the time about, hey, here's people that you want to buy low. Hey, here's guys to sell now. It's the same type of process on this app. That's right. I said app. You can get the Prediction Strike app. You can go on there, use the promo code Dynasty, get yourself a free share of a player. It's really fun. It's really exciting. And it's not just football. They have other sports on there too. So it's not like once the NFL season's over, oh, can't use Prediction Strike anymore. Nope. You can go on there, do NBA stuff, MLB, all kinds of fantastic stuff. Go on there, predictionstrike.com. Use the app, promo code Dynasty.
All right.
Go ahead. Say it. Read it off, Rich.
So, after starting the season incredibly slow, Cole Kmet has scored 5 touchdowns in the last 3 games.
Who?
What's
Cole
his
Kmet?
What's his outlook, and where should he be ranked?
Oh, 5 touchdowns in 3 games? Man.
Yeah,
tight end
pretty good.
1. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, pretty good.
So all jokes aside, obviously I was ecstatic, like watching the past couple weeks. I almost put something on the show sheet about Cole Kmet last week, and I was like, I don't want to do this prematurely. It's only 3 touchdowns in 2 games. Like, yes, that's good, that's exciting, that's promising, but I don't want to like get ahead of myself. Once we saw this happen again this week, 2 more touchdowns this week, I'm ecstatic. We see Justin Fields is blossoming into a superstar right before our eyes. Obviously, him and Cole Kmet, they have history together. They're playing well together. And the other thing that I like too is it's not just, yes, there's been some big plays and things like that, but he's starting to get the targets again, just like he did last year, where he was the 7th most targeted tight end in the league last year. We're seeing that again now that they're passing the ball more. 6 and 7 targets the past couple weeks. So it's not only the big plays, he is getting a lot of looks. And so it's at the point now where he is starting to enter that tier of, not the top tier where, you have Kelsey and Andrews and Pitts for dynasty purposes, but he's entering that next tier of guys. Rich, for you, because obviously I'm biased. I love Cole Kmet. I've been talking about him for multiple years now on the show. Where do you see him? Somebody that likes Cole Kmet, but is not as much of a fanatic as I am, like a more rational mind on this. Where do you have him?
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Cole Kmet. I mean, coming out, we loved his dual athlete profile. I've always been a fan of Cole Kmet. Obviously, I'm not a fanatic like you are, but I like Cole Kmet a lot. I think these last 2 weeks, I mean, definitely for somebody like you, it's very easy to get excited, right? Because there's a lot of things that's gone right here. He went from a situation where over the first 7 weeks of the season, the guy didn't have a touchdown at all. And now he's tied for like the 2nd most touchdowns amongst tight ends because of these last couple of weeks where he's got the 5 touchdowns. We talk about, you mentioned Justin Fields. He's been a huge improvement now these last couple of weeks, which have now translated over to Cole Kmet. We saw his target share per route has now more than doubled. It's almost tripled. He was like in the low 10%. Now he's a little bit closer to 30. I think it's a little bit down like 26.5%, somewhere in there per PFF, but it's closer to that 30%. So he's seeing 3 times more targets than he was before, now that Justin Fields is actually throwing the football more, because they weren't throwing the football at all before, and that hurt him. Now, I think it's really good to be excited, but we have to expect some regression here a little bit, because those touchdowns are not sustainable. That pace is not sustainable. But that's fine. When you talk about average per game amongst tight ends, we said before, if you're averaging 10 points per game as a tight end, then you're a very solid tight end 1, like from that aspect. It's about just getting over that hump of 10 points per game, which is Cole Kmet easily could do because he's the number 1 target on his team, essentially. Like, he's the Travis Kelsey for Justin Fields, which is great news for Cole Kmet owners. And one of the reasons why I liked him so much in the beginning of the year, and I know you loved him too, but one of the reasons why I saw that path for success was like any other path for success for any tight end. It's just target share, target share, target share. That's all that matters. I mean, I guess for the most part, most players, but for tight ends especially, because these aren't guys that are overly electric with the ball in their hands, right? Because they're bigger guys. They're not as fast. Usually when we get the ball, it's not like they're out here making these giant dynamic plays afterwards. You'll see one here and one there, but for the most part, catch the ball, go a little bit, tackled, right? So it's just about target share and receptions. And with the increase here with Cole Kmet and being the number 1 option, yeah, that's a high-end tight end. It wouldn't surprise me none whatsoever, Garrett, if by the end of from this point going forward, especially if you take these last couple of weeks out of it, where he scored the 5 touchdowns, because those are outlier weeks. Let's start this week going forward, that Cole Kmet's a top 5 fantasy football tight end for the rest of the season. And yeah, I continually will like Cole Kmet until this roster changes. You have an up-and-coming quarterback. you have a running back situation that's completely murky after 2022. They're most likely going to draft a running back. Wouldn't surprise me if Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan Robinson's on this team, or they're going to sign somebody because it's a huge free agent class as well outside of David Montgomery. Their receiving core is a huge mystery as well. There's no young guy on there that has a path to be the number one guy. Darnell Mooney, I've been saying for the last 2 years, is a solid receiver, but like a really good number 2 receiver. They need that number 1 receiver, and honestly, I'd prefer Darnell Mooney to be a number 3 receiver on that team, preferably, which puts Cole Kmet as that number 2 receiver. And honestly, with Cole Kmet, I'm okay with out there just going and getting that number 1 guy, right? Like go get either a stud rookie or sign somebody this offseason and bring them in. So Cole Kmet, with the player profile that he has and the position of target share that he's going to see, then I'm very excited, like very, very excited for any Cole Kmet share I have, because he's going to be a difference maker, and he's going to be a difference maker for the rest of this year. And then hopefully that translates over to 2023 and 2024 and 2025. And he can kind of enter this next echelon of like basically like Zach Ertz, right? Like kind of being that TJ Hawkinson realm. Like now it's TJ Hawkinson, it's David Njoku, and it's Cole Kmet, right? Like that's that next tier of young tight ends that you want to get and Dallas Goedert, of course, too. Like when you have Kyle Pitts, you have Mark Andrews, you have Travis Kelce. Outside of those 3 guys, I mean, it's Hawkinson, it's all those guys I just mentioned, Kmet. Like those are the guys that I look at. I'd throw Kittle, but even Kittle, at 28, the way that offense works, like Kittle just got the talent. It's just about the target share. Now that they have 2 running backs
and the health,
2 receivers. And health, like I think Kittle's a premier talent, but I think he'll never be that guy that we once thought he was as tight end 1 overall, just because there's not enough targets. Like I want to see George Kittle get traded somewhere, right? Like he could be the number 1 guy.
Right.
Like so, like for me, I mean, I would put Kittle in the same tier as Cole Kmet. If you're like, I know this sounds crazy, Garrett, but like in a dynasty league, if you're like, hey, you have Cole Kmet right now and George Kittle. And you could probably get Cole Kmet plus. Like I want the Cole Kmet plus.
I do too.
Like I want David Njoku plus. Like I want these guys to have a much better opportunity for the target share than George Kittle, because that's what I'm worried about.
Because at tight end, you're shooting for ceiling. Because I'm going to settle for 10 points a game. Well, anybody can get you 10 points a game, 8 points a game. Like anybody can be in that 8 to 10 point range. You're shooting for the chance to get the 1 or 2 guys, on a great year, maybe it's 4, but that top tier of guys that you can get 14, 15 plus points per game, that's what you're shooting for. And I think Cole Kmet's one of the few that has the opportunity to maybe get to that point. Will he? I don't know, but at least give me the guy that has the shot to get to that point.
Yeah, otherwise you're just going to get Juwan Johnson, Tyler Higbee, Hayden Hurst, and,
right.
Tyler Conklin. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want those guys. You want the difference makers or the opportunity to make a difference. And that's what
just taking Hunter Henry forever, basically.
Well, dude, maybe he'll be with that 20. I mean, he's only 26, 27, or somewhere around there. Hunter Henry's not even that old.
He's not,
he
but
still has a chance.
He's not going anywhere, though. He's going to be in New England, and I have a hard time imagining he's going to get much more than 11 points per game.
That's true too. So yeah, I'm excited for Cole Kmet. You know what I mean? Like I'm excited because I know you've been preaching him so hard on the show. So I'm excited for our listeners that went out there and acquired Cole Kmet. Again, I've always been a Cole Kmet fan. Yeah. I've never ever said, "Oh, Garrett, what the hell are you talking about?" Because I've liked him too.
No, and Matt has as well.
Bandwagon you have.
Yeah, Matt has as well. Yeah, we've all been fans of his to a certain extent. So
yeah, I would pay. I mean, here, let me put it this way, Garrett. If I was a contender. And I'm in a tight end, Superflex tight end premium league, I would consider giving up a late first for Cole Kmet.
I like it. In a tight end premium, I think I would as well.
Those guys are too hard. I mean, like you said, you're looking for that. You want to have a piece of that group, right? Like you just want to have a piece of that group. And is Kmet risky? Yeah, for that price. But where else are you going to get it? Can you get Greg Dulcich for less? Probably. And you can go that route too. But I think out of all the guys we mentioned, nobody has a clearer path to targets right now than Cole Kmet. And that's the number one thing I'm looking for at tight end. Who has the clearest path to targets? It's why Darren Waller was so good in Oakland. You know what I mean? Who has the clearest path? We don't need analytics here. We don't need all this analytical breakdowns. Like this is when you talk about tight ends, it's a very clear picture that's painted here. It's a color by number, right? Like, you know where to put the paint.
Right.
And it's target share. Like it's a clear, like that's what you want. There's a reason Mark Andrews is so dominant because he gets all the targets. You know, Travis Kelce is an outlier. He's a freak athlete and he gets lots of targets. You know what I mean? And he's so good after the catch. But outside, year in, year out, it's just the guys that gets the targets. That's all you're looking for. And the younger they are and the more clear path they have for the future to be the number one guy, then that's what I'm looking for. So right now, Cole Kmet is that guy. What Minnesota gave up for TJ Hawkinson and Adam Thielen's age, TJ Hawkinson's that guy. Dallas Goedert's a really good athlete in a good situation. Even though he has two good receivers ahead of him, he falls in that bill. David Njoku, when they come back, I know we've seen a good bump in Donovan Peoples-Jones, and I love it, but when Deshaun Watson comes, David Njoku has that path, right? Like, that's what we're looking for, and Cole Kmet is, to me, the leader of the pack. So when I say a 23 first late in a Superflex league for Cole Kmet, sounds a little crazy, but that's what the true value is. And I did it for Dallas Goedert a couple of years ago. I mean, I have zero regrets about it. And I gave up a 23 first 2 years ago for Dallas Goedert. And I literally have zero regrets about it whatsoever.
Nope, I totally understand that. Goddard's been one of the few consistent pieces, and he's really pushing that envelope to like enter that top tier of players. We have a little bit more time left here. We have a bunch to cover, so if we don't get to it all, we can push some of it to the Nerd Herd episode. But somebody else that talk about breakout, we know Cole Kmet, huge breakout the past 3 weeks. But their biggest rival, the Green Bay Packers, they had a wide receiver breakout this week. Christian Watson. He was banged up all season. There were starting to be the whispers of, is this kid a bust? Can he not hack it? And then all of a sudden, 3 touchdown game, help lead the team in basically every category there. 8 targets, which is a solid target number 2. What do we do with Christian Watson? Because it went from complete famine to complete feast overnight.
Yeah, I mean, dude, just what is it? 2 weeks ago, I said, what are the odds that Christian Watson of all these receivers we're talking about was the bust of the group? It's him and Sky Moore that haven't looked good lately. But, if you have Christian Watson, you high five yourself because you're static. I mean, again, what are we doing here though? Like, it's week 10 of his rookie year. Like, so, oh no, it took him 10 weeks to do some production, and outside of that, he was hurt. Like, he wasn't even healthy.
Right.
Like, he was hurt for most of the year. So you're talking about a guy that was only coming down plays for about 17% of like the routes that were in there. Then he comes out, he's fully healthy. He's playing about 85% now of the routes, and he's seeing a great target share, right? Like right around 40% of the targets as well, which is massive for Aaron Rodgers. And we're just waiting for Aaron Rodgers. Like, who's going to be this guy? And we're like, and anything that we saw, we're like, grass man versus preseason. Oh, it's going to be Allen Lazard. It's got to be Allen Lazard, right? And then like Romeo Doubs, like, oh, it's Romeo Doubs. It's Romeo Doubs. But this is a guy he was taken top 5 in the second round. Mm-hmm. Somebody that they really liked, a player that was coming out of an FCS school that needed time no matter what. Had all the speed in the world, but just had to get through injuries and get a chance to get in the field. So he's just now getting a chance to be healthy and get on the field. Like, this is so, I mean, what you're excited about is like, okay, he's finally healthy. He's finally on the field. This is a team that needs him to succeed because of how the draft capital is spent on him. This is a team that needs him to succeed because they don't have any other receivers.
Right.
So they're invested in him fully. And then all of a sudden, finally he's healthy and finally he's on the field and he's producing with one of the best quarterbacks of this past decade. And we're going to sit here and like pretend we're color me shocked or like, oh, wow, what a come out of nowhere game. No, this guy was taken extremely high in the second round.
Yep.
Like, there's a reason he went in the first round of your rookie drafts, right? Because this is what you were hoping for, to be the number one guy with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay with speed that can get past the defenders, take the top off, catch the football. That has the speed when he does a quick slant route in the end zone. He can beat the defender, get past the linebacker, and catch that quick touchdown from a very accurate quarterback that's going to put the ball where it needs to be. All he has to do is hold on. That's the only thing we had to ever worry about is Christian Watson. One, to take his route running up a game here in the NFL and to make sure he can catch the football. He showed us this past week that he can do that. And with his target share, with his route participation, I mean, will we see 32-point games every single week? No. But now we're going to probably start seeing anywhere 5 to 10 catches per week for anywhere from 60 to 130 yards. And probably his touchdown ratio is going to go up drastically. It's why Davante Adams was so good every year too, is just he's got a ton of touchdowns because he was Aaron Rodgers' man. And now it looks like Christian Watson has a chance to beat Aaron Rodgers' man. So I'm ecstatic. I mean, so what am I doing with him? If I have him, I'm jumping up for joy. If I have an opportunity to trade for him, I would trade for him. Absolutely.
Let me ask you this, because the trades for him right now on the Dynasty GM, the trade finder section of the GM here, which I use all the time to kind of see, like, am I crazy? Am I not crazy? Is this the right range for the player that I'm thinking? So it's a fantastic tool if you haven't used it. But they're all over the place. Like, people's valuation of him is clearly skewed one way or another. So here's the first one: Brian Robinson or Christian Watson?
Oh, Watson by light years.
Exactly. Okay. Next one: Christian Watson in a 23 first for Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley.
That's where I came out on that one too. Christian Watson, James Cook for DeAndre Hopkins.
Depends where my team is. If I'm a contender, I want DeAndre Hopkins. If I'm reloading, I want Christian Watson.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, it's kind of straight up because James Cook doesn't move the needle whatsoever.
Right. This one was another odd one to me. Christian Watson or Tyler Higbee?
Christian Watson.
Christian Watson.
By 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, easily.
So that's the thing. Like,
I brought up Christian Watson's name, I think, like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I said, hey, man, like, I think it was our, I don't know if it was our show or a guest show it was on, but I was saying, like, you know, Christian Watson's like the perfect name. I swear, I think it was just our show last week, Garrett, maybe, where I was like, if you're trading for something and you're going to take gambles on players, like was it when we were talking about, like, just giving players like a wave, like, just take what you can get and, like, get guys that have offer upside, like Christian Watson, up to that point had done nothing. And I was like, dude, go get Christian Watson. Like,
might as well.
Maybe you can't get anything for like say like this player, like it seems like you're taking a gamble, but like go at least get some upside. And Christian Watson was like that perfect guy for upside. And here we are a week later, like, oh, look at all that upside.
Yep.
My cup is overflowing with so much upside.
All right, well, let's talk about one last guy, Christian McCaffrey. Twitter was kind of up in arms on Sunday night after Christian McCaffrey's usage. Only 34% of the rush attempts. Now, obviously, he was involved in the receiving game and things like that. But even at the goal line, and I remember, I think I even tweeted something out. I was surprised at the end of the game, last 2 minutes, they had Elijah Mitchell in there near the goal line, not Christian McCaffrey. Is this concerning to you at all that it might actually be a timeshare? Because I remember when we were talking about the trade, we had said we don't think this moves the needle much. Some people were like, he has now just entered a whole nother tier. This is incredible. There's other people that were kind of a little more subdued like this, like us. I didn't hear too many people that actually thought this was bad. There might have been one or two out there, but there weren't too many people that thought this was bad. Could this possibly be bad for his value?
I mean, it's not good for his value if you have Christian McCaffrey. It's not what you want to see. But I mean, it goes back to any other. It's any running back. Like, you want to see get all the carries. You want to see get all the touches. It's not going to happen here in San Francisco because now Elijah Mitchell's going to get some carries. Deebo Samuel got 4 carries. I'm not worried about the goal line work because Christian McCaffrey still got most of the goal line work still there, which was nice. But the coach came out and said, listen, we're going to give both these guys carries. And honestly, Elijah Mitchell's a really good running back.
He looked good in the game.
He was more effective than Christian McCaffrey, and that's an issue. But who was it? Was it Josh Dangle? I can't remember who put the tweet out. They're like, all these people talking about Christian McCaffrey, all this and that. Like, does it even matter? Because you're going to start, if you have Christian McCaffrey, you're putting him in your lineup every single week.
That's true.
Like, yeah, you're right. There's no point of even talking about it.
Well, the reason why it does matter though, because overall you're right, especially for starting lineups and stuff like that. Like, absolutely. But there are people trying to make trades as far as, trying to make contender trades and things like that right now. And Christian McCaffrey could be a target. Is it scaring you off trying to acquire him on a contender, knowing that you're going to have to pay, a top 5 running back price?
No, because he's still Christian McCaffrey. He's still 26 years old. He's still dynamic. Elijah Mitchell's got a history of getting hurt. Like he's been hurt a ton. Christian McCaffrey's bread and butter is in the passing game. So no, I'm not scared to acquire. Listen, I'm scared to acquire any running back, to be honest with you, for top 5 pricing. I mean, it's got to be like a young stud, right? Like it's got to be like Saquon Barkley. It's got to be Jonathan Taylor. Like for me to go pay like premium pricing, like I'm not doing that for like a soon to be 27-year-old running back, like a Nick Chubb, a Christian McCaffrey. I'm not paying that. I'm not paying premium pricing. Like I'll pay it first for Christian McCaffrey. But listen, man, yeah, there's worries because you have an offense where you have a lot of true playmakers, like special players with George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and Christian McCaffrey. And there's only so many balls to go around. And you have, and now you throw Elijah Mitchell in that workload, and Kyle Shanahan saying, yeah, we're going to scheme Elijah Mitchell in there. Because they're trying to win football games. They're not trying to win fantasy football games. They're trying to win NFL games. And you're just trying to get the ball in these players' hands. And I said, they're going to give Deebo Samuel carries too. He got 4 carries. So are the days of Christian McCaffrey getting 30 points per game over? Probably.
Probably so.
You know what I mean? They're probably over. He's probably going to enter that mid-range to low-end running back 1 numbers right around there probably. Like, you hope he just gets schemed more in the passing game and he can dominate there because then he's going to be insulated. But yeah, I mean, it hurts. But I mean, at this point, if you're a McCaffrey owner, you're just happy he's on the damn field, right? Like, you haven't had him for 2 years. So give me low-end running back numbers. Maybe this helps McCaffrey stay on the field, and going forward, like, that's what he needs. Like, he needs a reduced workload just so he's not overworked. He's not getting all these injuries, and just be happy with what you got. And yeah, so 30 point per games are probably gone until Elijah Mitchell gets hurt again, and he'll have a couple big games because he's Christian McCaffrey. But yeah, and you shouldn't pay top 5 pricing for him, Garrett. Like and to be honest with you, you shouldn't pay top 5 pricing, and their names aren't like, again, Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, maybe Kenneth Walker, probably not. You know what I mean? Like,
right. It's a short list.
Yeah, Dynasty is not a game you should be playing where you're overpaying for running backs. It's just not, because it's a bad investment. It's not a long-term investment. It's a bad investment. It's a very high-risk investment.
You're only doing it simply if you are a running back away from being the number 1 contender in your league. Like, that's really the only time you make that trade, because you draft them otherwise. That's where you go acquire them, is you acquire them through the draft. So
yeah, and you're right. If you try to trade McCaffrey, he's got a slight dip. But if you wanted to trade McCaffrey, the time was his first whole game in San Francisco where he had 30 points again. He was throwing touchdowns, catching touchdowns, and rushing touchdowns. If there was any time you want to trade him, that was the time.
Real quick,
that window will probably open up again.
Real quick, to finish out the show, look at a couple of these trades again. Christian McCaffrey or a 24 first, a 25 first, and a 24 second. Which side would you rather have in a vacuum?
I would probably want the picks.
Okay.
But again, it depends on my team. Like, if I need Christian McCaffrey to win, I'm not giving rid of McCaffrey. So, like, it all comes down to that. I'll give up almost any running back for 2 first-round picks.
Right. It does hurt a little bit.
Like literally almost any running back.
It does hurt a little bit that it's not in 23, so you got to wait 2 years to get both picks.
Yeah, but I don't mind those picks, man. Like, some people get so caught. Like, here's the thing: when I like the mystery of trading for 24. If I get 25 picks, because if you trade for a 23 pick and he's a contender, definitely now that's guaranteed a mid to late, probably late first. 24, definitely you get a 25. You have no idea where that could be. It could be 1-1, 1-2. You have it's actually. I know it sounds dumb, and I know they're depreciating value, but I would much rather trade for contenders. Like, if somebody's like, "Hey, I'm a contender. I'll give you my 23 first." If he's a true contender, and I love the 23 class, I would much rather say, dude, go ahead and keep your 23 first. Like, I'm doing him a favor. How about you just give me a 24 first instead? And then on top of that, give me a 25 second, because now I have next year for their team, which is, if they're a contender, probably older. has a much better chance to fall apart and increase my draft capital. So like when I deal with contenders, I would actually prefer, you know what I mean? Like future first. Like I think it's actually a really good strategy in Dynasty when people are trying like, oh, I'll give you my 23 first and your contender. I'm like, no, dude, you're guaranteed to make the playoffs. Like I don't want to.
Right.
Just give me a 24 pick, which would be a good class too. And 25 will probably be a good class too. And 26, we'll be talking about how much we like those prospects. So I would much rather kick the can down the lane. And then I also don't know where my team will be then too, down the lane too. So like like the one thing that's not going to lose value, Garrett, is first round picks.
No, they'll only gain
those
value.
Are insulated. No matter what, they're insulated. So like I might need those picks in 25. You know what I mean? Or it also gives me more ammo in my gun where now like next year where that class is even closer, I have more trade bait to give now too to get stuff in return. So I don't think we've ever talked about this show, but like that strategy, like we should probably talk about that more in depth at one time in the future. Like, yeah, just trade for get as much in the future sometimes as possible.
Yeah, no, I don't hate that. I don't hate that. A couple other really quick ones. Would you rather have Christian McCaffrey and Mike Williams or DeAndre Swift, Drake London, and a 23 first? Christian McCaffrey and Mike Williams or Drake London, DeAndre Swift, and a 23 first?
Oh, even though I think DeAndre Swift, it's funny now. If you're just tuning in for the first time and I say this, it sounds like I'm just like, oh yeah, now you say this. I've said this for literally 12 months now. I feel like DeAndre Swift's the most overrated fantasy football dynasty running back out there, even though I still have him ranked really high. But I've literally said this for 12 months. It's been documented on this show and every guest show I've ever done. But I would easily take DeAndre Swift and Drake London there over Christian McCaffrey and Mike Williams. I'd almost just just Drake London alone there makes it sound like both those players in standalone value. Like it's like, oh, maybe those guys,
right?
You know what I mean?
And then you get the 23
them
first.
Combined, it's a slam dunk.
Yeah, you get the 23 first.
Wait, and you get 23 first?
Yeah.
Wow, dude, if somebody offered that trade to me, like I would have to like clean myself off in the midsection before I could like hit accept. I'd be so excited. That's what a trade. Oh my God. I'm almost done just thinking about it.
Well, in that case, we better wrap up and get ready for the Nerd Herd show. Give you a little break.
All right, let's jump in. We got a lot more to talk about. Appreciate everybody for listening. We'll be back next week for the holiday show. I will not be here. It'll be Matt and Garrett as I'll be celebrating the week with my friends and family. Like I said, I'll be in Buffalo. If you're in there, hit me up on Twitter. Maybe grab a beer. I'd love to see somebody go through a table. Love those lines. Garrett mentioned the Trade Finder. Now's the best time to join the Nerd Herd if you have not thought about it yet, because as we get closer to the making these trades, the season comes to end. All the rookie films get in the film room to start watching these rookies. The Dynasty GM is about to launch a 2.0 here next month. So many tools to help you because this is Dynasty. It's not 365. Like this part of the season is important, but every day is important. And we have all the tools to help walk you through 365 days of the year playing Dynasty. No matter what seems important at the time, we have that tool for you that makes that you're in the best position over your league mates to be making the right decisions and better decisions. So check us out. Join the Nerd Herd. You see the sign behind me here. It's the best thing you'll ever do for the price of a cup of coffee, man. Like literally, it's just the price of a cup of coffee. You have the coolest Dynasty tools at your disposal. You're going to get all the rookie film that you could possibly handle. And you get extra podcasts to kind of help you when you're just want something to listen to. You get the Nerd Herd podcast, which is definitely important when we do our rookie breakdowns because we do half of the rookies on the Nerd Herd podcast. So check us out there. Join the Nerd Herd. We appreciate the support. Growing the game of Dynasty together. And if you get a chance to, leave us a rate and review on iTunes. It really helps the show this time of year when people are looking for good Dynasty content, especially in the off season. All your rating and reviews are very helpful to keep us at the top of the charts, which is where we like to be. Appreciate you, Nerd Herd. Let's jump into that show.